Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for joining. My name is Bill Spencer, Senior Director for Microsoft Teams Engineering, and I'm excited today to learn more about Slido. When I was presenting in the EBC, I was showing off the Microsoft Store and brought up Slido. The demo they had in the store was so compelling, I think they won a customer right there with my demonstration of the Microsoft Store and the Slido integration in Teams. So today we have Ana Vincente and Martin Brose, who will describe the integration of Slido into Microsoft Teams. Take it away, Ana.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bill. And thank you everyone for having us today. We're excited to be with you and maybe win some other customers with this fantastic demo we're about to do today. But yes, thank you for having us representing Slido. So who is with you today? Again, I'm Ana Vincente. I'm a user researcher at Slido, which means I get into the human psychology behind, how we like to use apps. I do a couple of interviews to understand how we can best design the app so that it works seamlessly, not only as a standalone product, but also in the integrations that we have. And I'll go ahead and let Martin introduce himself.
Thanks, Ana. Hi, everyone. My name is Martin. I'm a product manager on the integrations team. So we work on the integrations with Ana and the team. And today I'm excited to show you what Slido looks like in Microsoft Teams, as well as how it works and how you can set it up.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And just so you know, I am Martin's favorite researcher. He just forgot to mention it. Awesome. Let's go ahead and get started with our agenda. So we'll go through a few things. We'll tell you what is Slido. I'm sure you're very curious. We'll share with you some key features that we have from the product. We'll show you a stellar demo, and then we'll end with some Q&A. And speaking of that Q&A, actually, if you would join us here, either on slido.com and then using that event code below, or taking out your phones, I know you all have them, don't lie to me, and scan that QR code. You can then join us at slido.com, and any questions you have throughout the presentation, feel free to add them directly. We'll be able to answer them at the end, and it'll also be a nice leave behind because we can export those questions and then send them to you afterward. One great feature of Slido. Awesome. So take your time in scanning that, and as you are joining us, we'd like to ask you a question. Where are you joining us from? I'm sure you've been asked this plenty of times at this point in these virtual meetings, but would be cool to know where everyone's joining us from. You may notice in the top left-hand corner, we've got our little participants typing feature, which is really great for me as a presenter. I can easily see, is no one answering my question or are people just typing? So awesome. I see Slovakia, Worcester. Did I pronounce that right? Worcester? Please don't make fun of me. Canada, Calgary. Okay, elsewhere in Canada. Wilmington, North Carolina. I just relocated from Raleigh, North Carolina to London 2 days ago. So hello, fellow North Carolinians. Awesome. New York, Arizona, Germany, Seattle. I've lived in like half of these places. This is great. Awesome. Okay, big presence in Boston for this team. Very cool. England, hello. Me too, as of yesterday. Awesome. I'll give you about 5 more seconds and then we'll go. Okay, so I really did pronounce that incorrectly. Thank you for adding that to the word cloud. That's genuinely helpful. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that version either because I will mess it up. But thank you everyone for joining us. I do think it's kind of cool that, although we're all over the world, we can still get together for meetings like these and hopefully get the same value out of it. So let's continue. What is Slido's mission? Slido exists to help people get the most out of joining a meeting or an event by creating a genuine dialogue between the speaker and the audience. I'm sure we all had those very unpleasant meetings during COVID where there'd be, more than 10 people, 20, 40, 50, 100, and the presenter would ask at the end of a long presentation, does anyone have any questions? Or what do you all think? And you would just stare at them in your computer screen because there was just no way to comfortably have that two-way dialogue. And Slido absolutely builds the bridge for that problem. But we haven't just been doing it since COVID. It's actually been around for quite some time. So what is Slido? Slido is an industry-leading interaction platform, just as you saw in our word cloud for that last question. And it works for all types of meetings, hybrid, virtual, completely in person, you name it, Slido can do it. Also, parties, if you want to have a fun little Q&A session, maybe with your family members as you're reuniting across the globe. But in meetings specifically, we help give everyone a voice with polls, surveys, quizzes, and Q&A. It's also a great way to get instantaneous feedback during your meeting, which helps build trust and transparency in your workplace. But also for me as a meeting host, and for you all as participants, it gives you all control to direct the conversation how you want it to be directed in the meeting. You actually have a voice in, saying, this is actually not so important to us. What if we focused on this instead? And you can do that through Slido. So here are some Slido features. We'll only be going over today the ones that have little stars on them. How nice. But I did want to mention, of course, that we do have surveys, which is a great way to gather feedback from meeting attendees, whether it be, after a meeting or even without needing a meeting. You can use Slido asynchronously entirely. And we also have some fantastic analytics, which really, make Slido using the information you get in your Slidos during your meetings or asynchronously and taking that and taking action. So let's get started with our polls. Polls are fantastic for feedback, input, prioritization, and really any reason you can think of for using a poll. So we've got plenty of poll types to suit all of your needs. We've got multiple choice, open text, rating, word cloud, as you saw, and ranking. So Anna, what could I possibly use these polls for? Great question. If you have something like, you're starting a new creative project and you need to brainstorm, an open text question or a series of open text question might be a great way to get, those obscure ideas out there. But let's say, it's Q1 or whatever Q we're in. It's a new Q and you need to really align or prioritize this quarter's objectives. A multiple choice or a ranking or a rating poll might be a great way to do that. So really any use case you can think of, you can use a poll for with Slido. We also have surveys, which is a combination of any of these polls, which is great. So, again, you can send that during a meeting to gather instantaneous feedback, after a meeting, or even asynchronously. We've got quizzes. Quizzes are great to make the information stick. So first, this is just a screenshot of what it looks like when the quiz is over. As you can see, there's a leaderboard, which is very exciting. Who doesn't love adding a little bit of competitive edge to the meetings? It makes it more engaging. It makes it fun. Many use cases for this as well, right? For educators, great way to test the knowledge of students during the class. For trainers, which I used to be over at Cisco, a great way to make sure that people are paying attention. So pay attention. There will be a quiz at the end. No, I'm just joking. We're not going to quiz you, but you got nervous, right? To pay more attention. But yeah, so this is what our quiz looks like. It's super fun and I highly recommend it. Moving on, we've got our Q&A, which is great for crowdsourcing what's most top of mind. So as you can see on the bigger image on the left-hand side, that top question is highlighted, which helps not only me as a presenter focus on the question I'm answering, but then everyone else in the meeting also knows which question I'm giving an answer to. You can also see the first question is anonymous. The anonymous feature is actually one of my favorite things at Slido because, we know that it is difficult sometimes to ask certain questions or to have certain kinds of conversations at work. It's been a difficult couple of years and we've had to ask some uncomfortable questions. We don't want to prevent you from asking those because it might be attached to something that might be embarrassing. So ask the questions, be anonymous. It makes it great. If you look at the cell phone little image, you'll see the little thumbs up and likes. That is a fantastic way to prioritize top of mind information. For example, the top question has 14 likes. For me as a presenter, a lot more beneficial to answer a question that many people are wondering about rather than the question at the bottom that only has 2 likes. Especially if I'm running out of time, I'll want to prioritize those top questions and they will move according to the number of likes. You can turn that feature off if you want to, but I wouldn't. Here are some other features that we have. Co-host support is really wonderful. For example, if you were asking me furiously a ton of questions right now, but I was busy providing information in my presentation, Martin could be using the replies feature directly in the Q&A to answer the questions that you all are sending. That way I can focus on providing the information in presentation and Martin could answer your questions. So fantastic feature. All right, and moving on, the moment you've all been waiting for, ladies and gentlemen, please a quick drum roll. Can't hear it because you're all on mute, but I heard it, okay, in my brain, and we'll be presenting Slido for Microsoft Teams. We've made a ton of improvements. It's a really fantastic integration, and we're excited to share it with you. Before we share any more, I want to ask you all, what is your experience with Slido in Teams? Have you never used it at all? Used it as a participant or a meeting organizer? And you'll notice this is a question that you can choose multiple answers to. So if you've used it both as a participant and a meeting organizer, you can choose both options. But don't choose all three. That would be very confusing. Okay. This was just about what we were expecting. Well, perfect. We'll give you a nice introduction today for those of you that have never used it. And shout out to our meeting organizers out there. We know it's hard, but hopefully Slido is making it easier for you. All right, cool. Moving forward. So Slido is great because once you add it to Teams, it's always there. So whether you want to prepare a Slido before a meeting, you do that in Teams. If you're running it in your meeting, the button's right there. And if you want to see your post-event analytics, that's also available directly natively in Teams. You never have to leave it, which is great. Personally, I'm lazy. I don't like leaving applications. It's also easy to control, which makes it easy to engage your participants. So as a host, you can create polls and moderate Q&A directly from the meeting window. And let's say you didn't have time to create your Slido before the meeting started. No worries, just press that Slido button. You can create a question directly in the meeting window. And lastly, it's a distraction-free experience for participants. There's no confusion at all. You know, participants will see the poll in Teams as soon as you launch it. They don't have to switch apps in order to engage with you. I mean, look at that happy man, Edwin. I mean, he is loving his experience with Slido in Teams. All right, and I'll stop talking. I've been talking a lot. Why don't I just show you instead of tell you how fantastic it is? So I'm going to go ahead and stop presenting and hand it over to Martin to show you a little demo.
So as you can see, this is the Microsoft Teams calendar, and I already scheduled a meeting for the 20th of January, which was last week. But this is a pre-recorded demo, by the way. So you may think this is live. It's not live. I just wanted to make sure you understand that. Good. So let's play this video. I'll narrate over what you see on the screen. So as you can see, I'm going to enter the meeting now, and to add Slido to this meeting, I need to click the plus button. In this meeting, I already added Slido. So I'm going to create a rating poll now. You can see I already created a multiple choice poll while I was preparing for this meeting. So the question is, how do you like Slido in Teams so far? I'm going to select emoji scale. That works better, I think. Good. So I've got my 2 polling questions ready. And now I'm going to click join. As a host or an organizer, I'm going to join this meeting. There we go. You may notice there's a Slido button up there in the ribbon. So I'll click it to open Slido, and you should be able to see my 2 questions, which works great. So I'm ready, and I'm ready to launch my first question for my participants. So when I do that, I can now share it with everyone. They can either use the button, or I'm going to actually share it with everyone so they can see it right on their screens at the center. And as the question appears, they select vote, they select the option and hit send. And as you can see, the results update in real time. And the visuals help you kind of make the decision quite quickly because it's very smooth, it's very quick. And when I'm done, I just click stop. And I'm going to do the same thing for the rating poll question. And again, I share the poll with everyone in the meeting. And I select the heart eye emoji, and there we go. And as the results come in, again, the scale updates, results change, and you get the results, which is great. Now, just before we leave this meeting, I'm going to also show you the Q&A. So that's the second tab right there. So you just flick over to it, and as long as the Q&A is active for the participants, they can ask questions. So let's wait for the first question to arrive. So this is very similar to what Anna was showing you. So this is the organizer view. I've got the first question, and as a moderator or an organizer or a co-host, I can reply to the question. We may not have time for this question. We're just going to hit reply and send this response. When I hit send, it appears for everyone. It's a public response. So people can ask questions basically during the whole meeting if you choose to do that. And then after the meeting, as you can see, I can go and revisit some of the highlights, some of the polling questions that I asked during the meeting, and then I can export the data and share it with everyone. So this is the analytics bit that Anna was sharing. So this kind of nicely demonstrates that you start somewhere in Teams as you're preparing for the meeting, you create the polls in advance, and then while you're in the meeting, you can control Slido, we can activate polls, you can create new ones on the fly. And then finally, once the meeting is over, you can share the results with the participants, or you can export them and save them into your deck. And that's it for now. Anna, back to you.
I want to leave you with a few more pieces of information before we wrap up with our Q&A. And this, first of all, thank you, Martin, for the demo. Information I want to share is work is always better in teams. Did you like the pun? I liked the pun. I thought it was great. This is my favorite slide of the whole presentation. But this is just to let you know that we also integrate with PowerPoint. It's one of our many integrations, which means that you can use the Slido integration with PowerPoint in conjunction and synchronously with the one in Microsoft Teams. So if you're presenting your PowerPoint presentation, you're scrolling through it, your Slido questions come up, they will also come up in Teams, and your participants of your meeting can answer the questions right then and there. So that's that. Also want to mention that PowerPoint for macOS is coming soon. It's a question we get 17 times a day. We want you to know we're not ignoring it. Something is being done about it. Lastly, I just want to leave you with some additional resources. If you are still needing some creativity and wondering really what you can use Slido for, we've got some customer stories, use cases, and how-to videos that are a really great way to get some inspiration and get started. We've also got plenty of templates in there so that you don't have to create everything on your own. And if you still want to learn even more, become an expert in Slido. We've got Slido Academy, some internal documents that you can share with people when you're starting to use Slido in your organization. And lastly, we've got our Slido community, a great place to find answers to very common questions like, how do I add Slido to Microsoft Teams? Promise you the answer is in there. And yeah, a great place for innovators as well. So that is all for our presentation. Thank you all so much for having us again. It is not over. We're going to continue with our Q&A. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I made you chuckle at least twice. And we'll go ahead and get to our Q&A.
Wow, that is fantastic. Thank you so much, Anna and Martin. You have the Q&A. I've got a couple questions I could bring, but why don't you bring up Slido and start tackling these, and I'll bring over the questions that are not covered. Great.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bill. Is everyone seeing the questions on the screen, just to be sure? Okay, wonderful. So first question, does Slido support FedRAMP? If not yet, when might GCC version be available? Martin, I will let you take that.
I knew you would let me answer this one.
Of course.
Thanks for the question, Bill. No, Slido does not support FedRAMP. I know that in some environments, the customers who require FedRAMP work, they can have like a dedicated, they can figure out a way to use Slido even if it's not FedRAMP supported. I know about those customers. We have a dedicated task force right now who's exploring FedRAMP. So I currently don't have that much information for you to give you right now, but the team is looking into it. That's the best I can do right now. But it's definitely on our radar.
Awesome. And just to continue the demo here, as you can see, I've highlighted this question. I'm going to check it off because we've answered it, and it was prioritized, of course, because it had the most likes. Love our Q&A. Great time. All right, our next question is, how is Slido priced? And I'll go ahead and take that one. Martin, feel free to chime in if you'd like. So Slido has annual pricing as well as one-time pricing if you'd like to use it for like one particular event that you have. We've got 4 plans in our in each of those categories. They're all the same. We do have a basic and free plan where you can use Slido. Obviously, the features are more limited, but you can still use Slido even if you don't have a plan. And it goes all the way up to enterprise, in which you would need, I believe, to consult someone for a price. Or maybe I'm mistaken. Don't take my word for that. But we've got a pricing page that I'm happy to share with you in the chat. Martin, did you want to add to that?
Yes, Slido is also, there's a free version that anyone can use. Anyone can sign up and start using. And it's quite feature rich if you're not looking into like very specific features. The core functionality is there for everyone to use.
Awesome. Thank you, Martin. By the way, Bill, stop us whenever we run out of time. Otherwise, we'll just continue powering through some questions.
I would just keep powering. We might be able to go over a little bit. People will drop off if they need to.
Okay, wonderful. Well, let's keep going then. Our next question, as you can see, it's anonymous. See, if you're shy, you can ask questions too. Are you able to crowdsource audience question before the meeting? How does that work? Martin, should I take that or would you like to?
It's an excellent question for you, Anna. Go for it.
Wonderful. So the answer is yes, you are able to crowdsource audience questions before the meeting. So what you need to do here is, as you are preparing your Slido event, which you can do in the Teams app, As soon as it's created, you can have a link, a shareable link that you can send out to people. If they click that link and you have launched the Slido, they can go ahead and start asking questions before the meeting. And that's that. We do this pretty often at Slido and Cisco before all hands, for example. We will ask people to submit their questions ahead of time. That way, our executives can prepare their questions and make sure they come with the information that us lowly employees, just kidding, are asking for. Would you add anything to that, Martin?
No, I can't kill the joke. It's good.
Okay, awesome. I'm so funny. I love that about myself. Okay, great. Our next question. Bill joining from Redmond, Washington. I used to live there. Oh my gosh, twinsies. What makes Slido better than the competition? Martin, would you like to take that?
Sure, I'll take it. So I have a long list, Bill, so we'll make sure it's appended in the presentation so everyone can read that. But some of the kind of three things or three areas that we do really well. The first one is definitely Q&A. It's the upvoting system. It's the sentiment analysis, which we provide after the Q&A is over, and the organizers can go there and look at the questions, even adjust the analysis, and make sure that when they produce the report is it's correct. Another important feature is definitely the variety of different polling options and questions. Within each of the polling questions or polling types that you saw, there are different granular and more detailed settings that you can do. For example, for the rating emoji, for the rating poll, you can change that to an emoji scale, which is very helpful because not every time, sometimes it's better to let the participant express their kind of emotions or their preferences using the emojis. And then another one is definitely, I'm looking at the list right now, to be honest with you guys. I was not that ready for this question. I'm just going to stop there at this point. I'll make sure the list is provided so I don't stall. So back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Martin.
Yeah, what I'd like to add too, just the ease of use relative to our competitors. Like the design is very seamless. As a researcher, I always ask the question, if you could describe Slido in one word, what would it be? 90% of the time, the answer we get is easy. Like it is just so simple, not only in design, but also to use. And people really enjoy that, both as hosts and as participants. One thing I do want to be transparent about also, though, is where you might want to use a competitor instead of Slido. If you're looking for a very robust surveying tool with branching and like hundreds of questions, I would not recommend Slido. But when it comes to the everyday survey that we all need to ask and engaging people, in person and virtually, and having a level playing field for everybody, Slido 100% takes the cake. I think that's a thing that people say, and I'm going to stick with that. Awesome. Our next question is, what languages does Slido support?
I'll take that. So it's English, definitely, but we're working on extending the support. The new version of the side panel that you saw during the demo will support the languages that Microsoft Teams support. So if there is a different language that is selected for the meeting client, in that case, we would just switch to that language. I think we're currently at 24 languages, but this is coming a bit later. Right now, it's only English, and then participants can change. They cannot change the language, but we will adjust the language again based on the browser they use if they respond to questions in a browser. And I think that's also around 24 languages at the moment.
Awesome. Thank you, Martin. Moving on to our next question.
I saw.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. Sorry. We can read the question. Let's stick to the format.
Kevin, thank you, Kevin, asks about Slido plans for M365 certification.
Yes, great question, Kevin. Thanks so much. We started the process. However, right now we put it on hold. There are some significant changes that are coming into the product, and we were advised by the very kind and nice security team to kind of put things on hold, make sure that the significant changes are completed, and then we will restart the process. We're probably talking about a few months, not a few weeks. And when that is done, we will look into the 365 certification again, and we'll most likely restart the process. So stay tuned. It's coming perhaps a bit later this year.
Great. Thank you, Martin. This is my favorite kind of question. A compliment. Looks great. I love it. Thank you, Anonymous. That is great. My favorite kind of question. I agree. Great. Thank you for the compliment. Next question is, does it work in Teams Live?
No, it doesn't right now. I don't think Microsoft Teams Live has the apps right now. Funnily enough, we had a call with the product manager last week. We had a good chat about the plans with Microsoft Teams Live. We talked a bit about polling and how it could work in Microsoft Teams Lives. But right now, I know they're looking into different ways to kind of bring polling into the meetings. That's it. I think we will kind of have another discussion sometimes later. But no, this is not supported right now.
Great. All right, moving to our next question. Will the Slido Q&A override the Teams chat, or will we maintain both? I think this question means, and correct me if I'm wrong, okay, I'm having a hard time rephrasing. I apologize for jet lag.
But you keep both, I think, Anna, you keep both. I think that's the answer. Yeah. So if you put things into the chat, that's one channel. And then if you ask through Slido, that's another channel. So that makes things a bit challenging for the organizers. So ideally, I think the advice in general we give is just use Slido or just use chat. Don't use both because it's difficult to keep track of both.
Unless you've got a co-host, which I strongly recommend. Awesome. All right, almost at the end of our questions here. Please comment how long it typically takes to deploy Slido.
Anna, I know you've spoken to many admins. I wonder if you have any insight there. If not, then I'll try to tackle this question, but I want to give you a chance.
Yeah, having spoken to admins, to be honest, the answer is quite all over the place. It often depends on the size of the organization, also the security desires of the organization. Slido, as of right now, is kind of a all or nothing. You cannot deploy Slido to only specific parts of your organization. Is that correct, Martin?
That's correct.
Okay, right. So, and some organizations, don't want everyone to have access to Slido, and so that kind of delays the process. I don't want to give misinformation, so I'm not going to speak more on that. That being said, it could be super quick. It's really not a complicated product to deploy and quite easy to start using. But depending on the organization's desires, size, approvals, those are things that might get in the way. But
well, seeing no additional questions, I want to thank you, Anna and Martin. Wonderful presentation. Thank you so much for the partnership, the integration into Microsoft Teams. The innovation you showed today is impressive.
Awesome.
Thank you, Bill. We appreciate it.
Take care, all. Appreciate everyone joining. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye.